Today we're getting into the latest Tesla news, including Tesla producing tons of cars without nickel or cobalt, Tesla's Cyberquad competition, Model Y battery updates, Elon Musk buying Twitter, and more, so let's get into it. First up today, there was a lot of information shared at Tesla's most recent earnings call. We talked a lot about it in my last video, but there were a number of takeaways that deserve more of an analysis. One of the biggest takeaways is that Tesla is proceeding with 4680 cells at Giga Texas, but they are also going to be producing Model Ys there with standard 2170 cells. Back in January, Tesla announced that they had produced 1 million 4680 battery cells. This was an exciting milestone and sounds like a very large number until you realize that those 1 million cells will only translate to roughly 1,000 vehicles. Tesla is in the ramping process at their Cato Road facility, so they could have already made another million cells by now, but with the massive amount of cars they plan to push out of Giga Texas, it was seeming that their own battery cell supply would be a constraint. At Giga Texas, they had a demo of their battery cell production lines, but when talking to employees there, they mentioned that these lines were essentially set up for the factory tour. They have not been producing cells yet, and the 4680 Model Ys shipping and delivering from Giga Texas would ship with cells made at Cato Road for the time being. I was wondering how Tesla would catch up on cell supply when they are trying to ship a ton of cars out of these factories, and now they have a backup plan in place. At both Berlin and Texas, by the end of the year, they look to be planning to make 4680 and 2170 Model Ys separately, of course. For Giga Texas, they said, quote, later this year, we expect Gigafactory Texas will be able to produce Model Ys using both structural packs with 4680 cells as well as non-structural packs with 2170 cells. At Giga Berlin, they said, quote, ultimately, Gigafactory Berlin Brandenburg will be able to produce Model Ys using both structural packs with 4680 cells as well as non-structural packs with 2170 cells. This is a huge update and means that for people looking to wait and upgrade to a Model Y with 4680 cells and large improvements, those improvements won't really arrive as expected. It will be an updated architecture using Tesla's own cells and structural battery pack, but for now, they will also be producing the same Model Y that they have been for 2 years now. Likely, it will be at least a year before they ship the 4680 Model Y and have it include significant improvements over the Model Y as shipped today. What we should see soon, though, is that Tesla introduces a standard range Model Y that ships with these new cells. Overall, this is just another implementation of Tesla's focus on scaling. Instead of switching all cars to new cells, which they will be constrained on, they are actually just adding a new type of battery cell to the pile. They now ship cars with 2170 cells, cars with LFP 2170 cells that feature a nickel and cobalt-free chemistry, and cars with 4680 cells that they make themselves. They also ship the Model S and X with different cells on top of those. Regarding batteries, on the earnings report, Tesla said, quote, diversification of battery chemistries is critical for long-term capacity growth to better optimize our products for their various use cases and expand our supplier base. This is why nearly half of Tesla's vehicles produced in Q1 were equipped with a lithium iron phosphate LFP battery containing no nickel or cobalt. Currently, LFP batteries are used in most of our standard range vehicle products as well as commercial energy storage applications. As a result of our energy efficient motors, a Model 3 with an LFP battery pack can still achieve a 267-mile EPA range. This is a huge development, and it shows just how much in demand Tesla's standard range vehicles are. Over half of all vehicles they shipped in Q1 included LFP batteries. This means that these particular vehicles were completely unaffected by the increased price of nickel, and they don't use cobalt, which is an element companies want to move away from more and more. Currently as well, those LFP batteries are shipping only in China on the standard range Model 3 and Model Y, which also points to how many cars they are selling out of Giga Shanghai. Regarding battery chemistry, on the earnings call itself, Drew Baglino answered a question about how quickly Tesla can shift all chemistries to LFP. He said, quote, we could change our cathode chemistry, and there's more to be done on the cathode side, and we are actively pursuing it to give us substitution flexibility in response to market conditions between the other cathodes that are out there that can be competitive in our vehicle. There are many options. This could very well have to do with the manganese chemistry that Elon Musk recently announced Tesla is working on. He said, quote, I think there's an interesting potential for manganese. Ultimately, with all of this information on battery cell types and battery chemistry, the average consumer doesn't actually care. They want an electric car that performs well and gets a decent range. The reason it's worth talking about, though, is that many automakers are working on electric cars. Most are relying on batteries from suppliers, and that supply is getting particularly strained as more companies make cars. Rivian's CEO recently said, quote, semiconductors are a small appetizer to what we are about to feel on battery cells over the next 2 decades. decades. This shortage is becoming clear, and Tesla is already many steps ahead, shipping half of their cars with LFP chemistry that avoids nickel or cobalt, scaling up their own in-house 4680 battery cells, and looking into other chemistries like manganese to use in future cars. This all will ensure that in the future, a Tesla electric car will actually be available to buy, while others may be waiting on battery cells. Next up today, Elon Musk officially bought Twitter. On Monday, Twitter announced that they accepted Elon's $44 billion offer to take the company private. This takeover has many excited and many frightened. NPR said, quote, "That means the world's richest person who has a penchant for theatrics and erratic behavior is about to have the power to reshape discourse on a social network used by more than 200 million people every day." Jack Dorsey said, quote, "Elon's goal of creating a platform that is maximally trusted and broadly inclusive is the right one. This is also at Parag's goal and why I chose him. Thank you both for getting the company out of an impossible situation. This is the right path. I believe it with all my heart." Elon himself, upon buying Twitter, said two things. First, he said, quote, "I hope that even my worst critics remain on Twitter because that is what free speech means." Then he followed that up to say, "Free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy, and Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated. I also want to make Twitter better than ever by enhancing the product with new features, making the algorithms open source to increase trust, defeating the spam bots, and authenticating all humans. Twitter has tremendous potential. I look forward to working with the company and the community of users to unlock it." There's a lot there, but I think most people can agree with the enhanced features Elon hopes to bring, particularly truly defeating the spam bots, a rampant issue on Twitter. Elon has also mentioned that he is in favor of an edit button, which many have requested for a long time. As Jerry Rig Everything said, quote, "Could be the best thing to happen to Twitter. Could be the worst thing to happen to Twitter. We'll find out." He meant to say worst there, but actually said word, which shows a case where an edit button would be useful. It's unclear what will happen with this purchase, but it will likely be some time before any true effects and Elon influence are seen on Twitter itself. I'm hoping for the best. Why this matters for Tesla is that Tesla's CEO, who's already very busy, is now going to be working on Twitter. Many fear he will be distracted or spread too thin, but Walter Isaacson, working on Elon's biography, tweeted to show how Elon can multitask. He said, quote, "Late last night, after winning his battle for Twitter, Elon Musk was in Boca Chica and held his regular 10 p.m. meeting on Raptor engine design, where he spent more than an hour working on valve leak solutions. No one mentioned Twitter. He can multitask." He followed that up with what Elon was doing earlier that day, meeting with Indonesia's Minister for Investment about battery supply chain and mines. Next up today, Tesla's stock took a dive yesterday, as much as 10%, and many have been drawing conclusions as to why it went down so much. One thing that people have been suspecting is that Tesla and Elon Musk have talked about their launch in India coming soon. India has the biggest auto market that Tesla hasn't entered. In August of 2021, Reuters reported that, quote, "India is considering slashing import duties on electric cars to as low as 40%, two senior government officials told Reuters days after Tesla Inc.'s appeals for a cut polarized the country's auto industry. Tesla was spotted testing cars in India, and 7 different variants of their cars were approved there, but Tesla's plans were to import cars into India from Giga Shanghai. Eventually, they may make a factory there, but they will enter the market with imported cars. Now, the India government appears to be shutting down plans, saying, quote, "Making in China and selling here is not a good proposition." It now appears that Tesla entering India is at least on hold for some time, or will need to come from the introduction of a factory there. This is a huge market that they no longer can enter, and it's definitely unfortunate to hear. Next up today, another piece of information that was unveiled on Tesla's earnings call was that they are looking into an 800-volt architecture. So far, Tesla has shipped all of their cars with a 400-volt architecture. Other companies like Porsche, Hyundai, and Kia are shipping electric cars with a faster 800-volt architecture, and people wonder why Tesla hasn't switched. A quick description of why 800 volts can be better comes from Top Chargers, saying, quote, "800 volts is better than 400 volts because it enables faster charging speeds without adding heat and requiring new cables and electronic components. By doubling the voltage flowing to the battery, we enable twice the charging speeds while having the current, and it is the current that adds heat." They also note that, quote, "The benefits of 800 volts are only realized at level 3 chargers, the ultra-rapid variety. 800 volts does not increase the speed of a home charger." Ultimately, as well, there are many factors at play, and the difference is only really felt at rapid chargers, like they said. For downsides, quote, "The biggest downside is the architecture requires new engineering. Cars with 400 volts today cannot be converted to 800 volts by replacing a few parts, so 800 volts charging is very much a technology for next generation vehicles. There are also a few design and engineering limitations, including more insulation required for the HV conductors and lower power density in the motors, caused by thinner wires and greater insulation thickness. Since Tesla is so focused on scaling their vehicles and making them cheaper, switching to 800 volts would need a significant upgrade to each vehicle and wouldn't totally make sense for them. On their Q1 2022 earnings call, they said, quote, "For the smaller platform vehicles like 3 and Y, there's some wins and losses with 800 volts. Not everything is better. And so we look at that platform and we're not like ignoring the reality that you can go to a higher voltage, but there's nothing really encouraging us to do so on that platform." They also noted that switching to 800 volts, which would require a huge upfront cost for them, would only save them about $100 per vehicle once in place. For the future though, Tesla confirmed that they are looking into an 800 volt architecture for both the Semi and Cybertruck. These are larger vehicles where it would make sense. Quote, "There's a little bit more semiconductor and actual conductor savings of going to the higher voltage. And so we do consider that for Semi and Cybertruck. But for the 3/Y platform, where we've got everything running, the benefit is questionably small. As a consumer, not a lot will be noticed here again, but we could see the introduction of faster charging speeds along with other improvements that come with 800 volts on the Cybertruck when it ships. The latest update on Cybertruck production is volume production in 2023, according to Elon Musk. Next up today, at the Cybertruck announcement event, Tesla showcased the Cyberquad. Not much has been heard about this vehicle other than some initial tweets from Elon and Tesla selling the child version of it. Elon said, quote, "Tesla 2-person electric ATV will come at first as an option for Cybertruck." I wouldn't be surprised if this changed, but Tesla does appear to be working on the ATV. They posted on their Weibo account in China and announced the launch of, quote, "the 2022 World Power Battery Conference Power Battery Integration and Management Technology Challenge." Tesla is calling for teams to submit designs for a battery pack designed to fit in the Cyberquad utilizing 2170 cells. They are giving out prizes for the best designs up to $30,000, and they haven't said directly, but they will likely be using that design, the best design, in the ATV itself. They are looking for any innovation and research teams, not just students, to design this battery pack, and the competition will be ending in July. It's an interesting approach and something Tesla hasn't done before, especially on a major product like this, but it could very well end up being a large recruiting effort. The best teams get a cash prize and end up recruited to Tesla to work on future battery pack designs. Definitely a very interesting approach and shows that they are definitely working on the Cyberquad. Next up today, Tesla has been spotted testing Wi-Fi hotspot connectivity from several major internet providers. Connectivity has always been included in Tesla cars, and they now charge $9.99 per month in order to receive what they call premium connectivity. This allows you to get live traffic visualization, live Sentry mode camera streaming, satellite view maps, video streaming, karaoke, music streaming, and access to the internet browser. But connectivity is always part of the vehicle regardless. This is what allows you to use most of the features in the Tesla app. Recently, Tesla added the ability to stay connected to a Wi-Fi hotspot, saying, quote, "To remain connected to Wi-Fi when shifting into gear, tap the Wi-Fi icon, Wi-Fi settings, remain connected in Drive." This is especially useful for users who wish to use their hotspots for connectivity. Now, Tesla hacker at Green the Only has confirmed in code that Tesla is working on access to public hotspots from AT&T, Orange, Comcast, and more. It appears to be in collaboration with these companies since these hotspots require keys to join. Overall, this could help improve the connectivity in Teslas as more and more data-heavy features get added to these cars. It's unclear how this will be implemented or when, but it is something that Tesla is actively testing. Usually when we spot something like this, it's a few months and then it shows up in an over-the-air software update for all cars. Last up today, a few updates about EVs from other manufacturers. Ford is officially launching the F-150 Lightning with the first Pro Series Lightning models shipping and delivering in the coming days. Definitely exciting to see a solid electric truck coming from Ford, who should be able to scale it up fairly well. We'll see owners' reviews and more coming from that truck soon, and it marks the second electric truck to market after the Rivian R1T. For Rivian, they just sent out a new email outlining a few delays. For one, they said, quote, "For both R1T and R1S, we are prioritizing Black Mountain and Forest Edge interiors for the soonest deliveries, with Ocean Coast deliveries starting later this fall. The Lightwood and Ocean Coast is more challenging to produce, so in order to move faster, we are focusing initially on producing with Black Mountain and Forest Edge. We are also using more batching of exterior colors and wheel options." They plan to give updated delivery info in late May for customers with a 2022 delivery window, and ask for those with a 2023 delivery window to sit tight for now. Over in China, NIO has produced their 200,000th EV. Reportedly, their 200,000th vehicle rolled off the production line on April 26th, which is just a little over a year after they celebrated 100,000 vehicles. That 200,000th vehicle was an ET7. That's a great achievement and great progress in the future of electric vehicles, hoping for the best in the years to come. Over at GM, they have finally announced the electric all-wheel drive Corvette. Kind of. GM's president shared the news this morning saying, quote, "In addition to the amazing new Chevrolet Corvette Z06 and other gas-powered variants coming, we will offer an electrified and a fully electric Ultium-based Corvette in the future. In fact, we will offer an electrified Corvette as early as next year. Details and names to come at a later date. In addition, we also announced today that Ultium Platform's energy recovery system, a patented onboard system that takes the heat generated by EV batteries and uses it to warm the cabin, create more efficient charging conditions, and even increase vehicle acceleration. And it can boost the vehicle's range by about 10%. It's a perfect example of how developing a ground-up EV platform like Ultium enables unique features not easily done with a retrofit. It's definitely disappointing that they still appear to be prioritizing an electrified model as opposed to a fully electric Corvette, but at least they are working on it. It should allow Chevy to make an incredible version of the Corvette once it ships, and maybe it will rival the Plaid Model S. That's all the latest Tesla news for today, so in the meantime, if you want to see why I purchased a used Tesla in 2022, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.